friends, and thank you for joining us for another episode of Fort Worth Roots. This is a local podcast focused on our community's creators. You can find us on all your favorite streaming services and social medias by searching Fort Worth Roots. These recordings do also have YouTube videos associated with them. Again, that's just Fort Worth Roots. Roofing Solutions by Darren Houck is our most recent sponsor. You can find his information at roofingsolutionsHouck.com, and that will be in the show notes. They, of course, do every kind of roofing you can think of, commercial and residential. And right now, Darren is currently in the works to try to put together a special incentive program to get you guys to give him a call so that he can come out, take a look at your roof, and just kind of introduce himself. As we move forward, gaining sponsorship for the show, we're looking for people that have an excellent reputation with the community. Somebody that's very highly respected by the people that they've worked with. And Roofing Solutions by Darren Houck fits that bill. As we continue to grow the Fort Worth Roots podcast, it's going to be important for us to find sponsorship. But we're not going to just accept sponsorship from anybody that's willing to write us a check. They've got to be somebody that is respected by the community and is invested in helping out our neighbors. North Texas is one of the most awful places for roofs. We've earned that reputation over the years, from the hailstorms and the high winds and everything else. Right now, we're kind of in between hail seasons, so people aren't thinking about their roofs. But these high temperatures can also play hell on your roof. Still not a bad time to have a qualified, trusted roofer from your local community come out there and take a look at the thing that's covering your most valuable asset. So before something goes wrong, go ahead and save this phone number so that you got it in your phone and you know exactly who to call next time there's anything going on with your roof. Roofing Solutions by Darren Houck is 817-882-6520, and that will be in the show notes along with their website, which is roofingsolutionsHouck.com. And a big thank you to Darren and Tanya Houck for supporting the Fort Worth Roots podcast. Our next sponsor to tell you about today is Houck Walker Originals. You can find them at houckwalker.com, and it's also Houck Walker Originals on Facebook. Owned by David and Angela Walker, they both have creative original ideas that end up on this website. On here, you'll find things like customized pins, bowls, flasks, tumblers, wine tumblers, beverage holders, and an entire collection that features items for the home, cutting boards for the kitchen, coasters for the living room, or wine box for the dining room. I've caught David out at Arts Goggle. I've caught him at the River Oaks Springfest car show with his wood turning equipment where he makes tops and bowls and things like that out at these events. Anyway, check them out. David, Angela, thank you for supporting the show. That's Houck Walker Originals, and you can find them at houckwalker.com. We also want to welcome Woodpost Metalworks, another sponsor for the Fort Worth Roots podcast. Woodpost Metalworks specializes in metal signs with or without LED backlighting, fence and gate repair, as well as installation, light steel fabrication, industrial plasma cutting, and more. You can check them out on Facebook as Woodpost Metalworks, or you can go to their website at woodpostmetalworks.com. And you should check out this website because it's incredible what a locally owned family business can create with their plasma cutter. This stuff is wild. My favorite thing that I've seen so far, I was out at Arts Goggle, and they had a booth set up, and they have this like 3-foot tall T-Rex thing, and it looks like it's put together in pieces, but they got the thing welded together and then painted. It looks like you could pull it apart, pack it in a box, and take it with you, but it's one solid piece. This thing was kind of a showstopper. People were coming by and taking pictures with it and things like that, but they made it themselves. Mickey Wendell and her husband are the ones that own Woodpost Metalworks, and we did an episode with them recently. That was episode 89, and it's tagged The Artful Village with Mickey Wendell, Darren Houck, and special guest Mark A. Nobles. But we talk a little bit about Woodpost Metalworks in that episode. We also talk about The Artful Village, which is something that we're going to start getting involved with and bringing out the Fort Worth Roots podcast to these little pop-up markets and interacting with the public, which we've done a little bit already, but we want to do that a lot more. I'm thinking about taking Fort Worth Roots to these pop-up markets and car shows and things like that on a semi-regular basis, just because I like getting out there and actually meeting people. Anyway, I'm getting off topic here. Go to woodpostmetalworks.com. Basically, if you need a sign for your business, or you're trying to come up with an awesome gift idea, or maybe you just need some decor for around the house. So check them out again. That's woodpostmetalworks.com. All right, that covers it. Thank you, Wood Post Metal Works. Thank you, Houck Walker Originals. And thank you, Roofing Solutions by Darren Houck. Thank y'all for sponsoring the Fort Worth Roots podcast. This is an exciting episode, chock full of information, so make sure you check out the show notes. There's going to be lots of links and stuff to click on there. The organization that lined up today's guest had an email sent to me about an event that they've got coming up, and I'm just going to read this thing off to you. The Fort Worth Public Library and Amplify 817 are hosting an amazing free concert showcased on August 17th. Amplify 817, August 17th. That's 8/17 day. Very clever. With support from a variety of community organizations and businesses. Since Amplify 817's launch in 2020 as a commercial-free music streaming platform featuring Fort Worth musicians, the library has continued to evolve Amplify 817 into a strong support network for artists. And then off of Facebook event, you can go on Facebook, type in Amplify 817 and pull up their event for that date, August 17th. 817-day concert is going to be at the Will Rogers Auditorium. You can get tickets at eventbrite.com. All this is on their Facebook if you want to check it out. And what to expect on their Facebook event says, show some love to the 817 and join us for an amazing evening of art and music. Admission is free thanks to the Fort Worth Public Library. Musical acts include Avery Burke, Vincy Jones, Cutthroat Finches, and Grant. And shout out to Theresa Davis. I finally got to meet her out at the 100th episode celebration for the Funky Panther podcast. This has just been an incredible weekend, but I got to interview those guys at their event out at Panther Island Brewing. They let me sit there and ask them questions, and that's going to be their 100th episode. It was a huge honor. I can't believe that they picked me, out of all people, to do something like that. They literally know every single podcaster in DFW, and they decided that Andrew from the Fort Worth Roots would be the guy to interview him. So it was a huge honor. Thank you guys. What an incredible weekend. And it was cool to finally connect with Theresa. She was walking in with a shirt that said Biblioteca on it, and I went, hey, that means library. And she's like, yeah, well, I work for the library. I was like, oh. The guys were shocked that I hadn't met Theresa yet, but now I have. And she's coming out to these events and talking good things about Amplify 817, and they've got a lot of cool stuff going on. I'm not going to try to describe what's going on with the public bus system, but they've got artists on buses riding around town, making videos, and just doing cool, goofy stuff. So y'all should check out their Facebook page. It's Amplify 817 on Facebook. But it has been an incredible weekend. And just yesterday, I met up with a bunch of podcasters that are going to be helping us out spread the word about the September 10th event that we got coming up out there at Pouring Glory. This is going to be Fort Worth Roots 100th episode celebration. And again, this event is supposed to be a big thank you for all the listeners that have been supporting the Fort Worth Roots podcast. We're putting this thing on. The event is free, and it's our way of saying thank you. So if you haven't already, go to Facebook, our Fort Worth Roots Facebook page, and find that event, September 10th at Pouring Glory. Hit the going button, and you'll start getting updates on things as they kind of develop. But we're going to have 3 live bands. One is going to be Late to the Station, one is The Gray, and the other is Itchy, Richie, and the Burning Sensations. And Kate Greathouse, a local comedian, will also be joining us, so that's going to be awesome. Mickey Wendell with The Artful Village is putting together a vendor pop-up market for us. And she was part of our little get-together yesterday where we got all the local podcasters together and assigned them letters to go with a word that's going to be used for a Fort Worth podcast scavenger hunt. And what we're doing is, since every one of these podcasts now has a letter, you'll go to their podcast, you'll listen to that episode, and they'll have the letter inside their intro. They'll say, this is the letter for the scavenger hunt, and then you have that letter. Then you take all the letters from those podcasts, and it spells a code word, a phrase. Take that phrase, put it on a raffle ticket September 10th at the event, and you'll be eligible to win prizes provided to us by our sponsors. It's just a little game we wanted to play, something that we could do to kind of get the word out about the upcoming event, and an interesting way to kind of promote all the local podcasts inside the Fort Worth area. I'll have more information on that next week, and we'll be putting all that detailed information in the show notes so that you guys know how to play the game. But aside from just playing the game, it's also going to bring awareness to the other awesome podcasters inside the Fort Worth area, which is kind of what it's all about. And every one of them that's involved with the scavenger hunt is going to be out there September 10th to hang out and kind of rub elbows and talk podcast and good stuff and just enjoy the event. And just so you know who I'm talking about, the Jerry Jonestown Massacre showed up. Forever Reckless podcast was there. Osos Colosos podcast showed up. The Failed podcast was there. The Funky Panther. Fort Worth Famous Podcast, Funky Town Podcast, and we've got a couple more that are going on that roster, but those are the ones that showed up yesterday to kind of represent for their show and be part of the scavenger hunt. It's going to be a cool deal. So big thank you to the podcast that showed up for our little get-together yesterday. Big shout-out to Mark Nobles, Mark Spitz, Genevieve, Angela Walker, David Walker, Darren Hauk, and Mickey Wendell. Thank y'all for coming out to that little thing. Scott was very appreciative of everybody that showed up, so thank you. Our guest today is a music librarian for the Fort Worth Public Library. In this episode, we talk about what brought her all the way to Fort Worth from McAllen, Texas to help spearhead Amplify 817. We talk about the selection process for Amplify and how the curator panels are formed and how they vote on new local artists. Thank you to Theresa and Francisco of Amplify 817 for making sure this interview took place. Go online to find more information about the public library and Amplify 817. You can go to fortworthlibrary.org or amplify817.org. They are very active on social media, and y'all really got to check out their Facebook page because there's some wild stuff happening inside the city of Fort Worth with Amplify 817. That's enough talking out of me. Her hometown features the largest single-level library in the United States in McAllen, Texas. Give it up for the super Fort Worth famous Rita Alfaro. Thank y'all for being here. Let's start the show. So it's Rita Alfaro?
Yes.
Okay. And what is your position here?
I am the music librarian for Fort Worth Public Library.
Okay. And that is all-encompassing, and Amplify 817 is just kind of a part of that?
Yes.
Okay.
It is a big part of it, but it is a part of it. I think a lot of people think I just focus on that part, and there's a lot more, at least that we're trying to do. I think Amplify was the start of, hey, we need like a full-time person to watch over music programs. And so that was a big part of it, was all the Amplify stuff. And it takes up a lot more time than we initially thought. When we launched it, I came on board about 2 months after. And once we did that first submission round, and then, you know, we was working with the curators and then trying to do all the contracts and get everything done and make sure people got paid, we were like, it's already time for a second submission round. And so it's become this full round year thing. Even though the public doesn't see that, they just see that when submissions are open, when we announce people, and in between then we're just doing a ton more. So that's a part of it. We also do some live music programming. Their Thursday Jazz is a big one. So once I came on board, I believe we're in our 14th year.
Oh, wow.
Jazz.
Okay.
And so it might be 13. I think it's 14.
So once a month for 14 years?
No, so we do a series of 5 concerts.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it used to be May through September, and then we kind of shifted it during the pandemic, so it's now June through October, and then we'll do one once a month during that time. So it's really nice. We usually get anywhere between like 300 to 600 people from what I've been told. I've been in the library system for about, I'm going on year 10 that I've been working here. Yeah.
With Fort Worth?
With Fort Worth, yes.
Wow.
I used to do youth services before I came on board with the music stuff. But
And are you originally from Fort Worth?
I'm not.
Where are you from?
I'm from McAllen, Texas.
Okay, not too far away.
McAllen it's a good, I do it by hours. I know some people, I think that's a Texas thing. But it's about a 9.5 hour drive. About
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I'm from the border, the south border. So a lot of people think, oh, borders, and they think El Paso.
Yeah.
I'm not from El Paso. I am from the Rio Grande Valley. 956.
Okay.
Yeah.
How far is that from Terlingua?
I'm not sure.
Do you know where Terlingua is?
I don't know where that is.
Okay. I think it's down in that area.
It might be. If it is.
How about Marfa? Do you know where Marfa is?
Yeah. No, it's more like it's maybe about 4 hours south of Marfa.
I think Terlingua is about 2 hours south of Marfa, maybe.
Okay. So yeah, then we're further than that. Yeah. A lot of people will say like, they're like, where are you from? South Texas. And then they're like, oh, San Antonio. And I'm like, oh, no further. And they're like, oh, they're like,
keep going.
Yeah. And they're
keep
like,
going.
Corpus Christi. And I'm like, no, like south. And they're just like, what's further south than that? And I'm like, the valley is.
Are you aware of the Tesla, what do they call it, like the space camp?
SpaceX.
SpaceX.
Yeah, that's in Brownsville.
Is that pretty close to McAllen?
Yeah, so Brownsville's south of the Rio Grande Valley. So a lot of times people who are from the Rio Grande Valley we just say we're from the Valley.
Okay.
Even though we're from different towns or different cities, like we're just one big family down there. And we're just all so close together that, you know, you're in one town and then immediately you're in the next and you don't even realize it. But yeah, Brownsville's the south part of the Valley. McAllen's a little further, maybe about 40-minute drive.
Oh, wow.
So it's not too far. But Brownsville was primarily known for the zoo. That's where our zoo is down there, and now SpaceX.
Do you still have family down there?
I do. My dad still lives there, so I just did a trip down. I usually go down a couple of times.
Do you drive?
I do drive. I considered flying. I've flown a couple of times, like, you know, for holidays because it's just quicker. But with gas prices and flights just being crazy, I was like, no, I'll just drive. But I have family in San Antonio, so usually the trip down.
Break it in half?
Yeah, I'll just stay a night in San Antonio or a day and then drive the rest of the time down.
So for the community down there, and until what age did you live in that area in the Valley?
I was born in Corpus, and then we moved almost immediately. And then I've lived pretty much my whole life there. I went to college in Denton, so until I was 18, and then I went to college. And
so having grown up there for the most part, and then revisiting family down there, has SpaceX kind of changed that community?
A little bit. It's fairly new, so there's a bit of an impact. I think that's anywhere that's going to get just a big addition to the community like that, where it's supposed to make the community money. And, you know, any big business that moves into a small town, and not that Brownsville's a small town, it is a city. I think a lot of people think we live in like little like dirt huts or something. Like, and it's not, it's a city. I've had friends visit and they're just like, I thought this would be like a Marfa kind of town. Yeah. I'm like, no, like we are a city, we are cities. But yeah,
we have a post office.
Yeah, we have 2 post offices. No,
$4 generals.
Yeah, so I think, you know, anybody who comes into a community like that, you really need to make really good relationships. I don't know how good they're doing and making those relationships. I know a lot of people who are a little upset about it. There's a lot of people who are moving. So even though they've created jobs for the STEM field kind of thing, and they need jobs, and there's people who are going into school for that kind of thing. It's, you know, the rent is going up everywhere. I mean, that's everywhere. Yeah. But over there, like, rent is going up higher. It's harder to find homes and communities. Gentrification is a thing. And so I think there's a little bit of that disconnect right now. Like, I think at one point, you know, he made a mural and there was a big deal about the mural because he didn't hire a local artist. So like,
come on, Elon.
Yeah. So I think there's some promise there, as long as I think they get a little bit more involved and learn to understand the community that they're a part of. Yeah. Because it's definitely a different lifestyle down there. It's definitely a different life, and it's really interesting over there. So, and I love it. I mean, it's my home where I grew up. I did a lot of studying there too when I did my first graduate studies there, before library science. And so, yeah, I think it's a really unique community, and there's a lot that can be done there.
So you went to UNT in Denton?
Yes.
And what was your major?
Music education.
Okay, and that's what led you to the Fort Worth Library?
Kind of. I did music education. I was a band director.
Okay. As a high school band director?
Yeah, high school, middle school.
What schools?
So I student taught in Sanger.
Okay.
After that, and then I moved back to my hometown, went back to McAllen, and I taught there for a little bit. But I immediately went into graduate school there, and I did ethnomusicology, which is a fun word.
Yeah, what is that?
That's the reaction I get. Everybody's like, "What?" It's pretty much just the study of world music and dance and that kind of culture, in that music culture in general, not to be confused with just general musicology, even though they cross a lot. I studied that for a little bit. My program ended up stopping. We were a very small program there. I was doing border studies, and then after that it was kind of like, what do I do next if I can't finish? And I didn't know if I wanted to continue teaching in the high school, middle school kind of, because I love music education. I loved my students. I loved the people I worked with, but it was a lot of the same thing. And I've met a lot of people who I went to school with for my undergrad, and they felt the same, where it was kind of like, you have UIL and then you have marching season, and then it's back to UIL, and then it was back to marching season. And it's the little things in between that were really fun, like doing the small ensembles and getting to teach the students either like music theory or music history, or them wanting to like learn more about the repertoire that they were playing. That was interesting, but you didn't get to focus on that a lot. Or even like I had friends who loved doing like the mariachi ensembles. I had somebody who did a conjunto ensemble, and that was
What's
really
that?
fun. Conjunto music, it's a regional, like South Texas music. And it kind of came from, so we had German settlers who came into Texas, and then the Mexicans who were living in Texas, or the Tejanos, were just like, oh, I like that accordion sound. Yeah. That's really cool. And so
Is that how the accordion got integrated into Mexican culture?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
From the German settlers. And so they just kind of made it into their own thing. And that is native to Texas conjunto music.
Wow, I did not know that.
And corridos. I think I've been told also California. I know New Mexico and Arizona will try to claim it, but as far as I know, it is a Texas thing. And so, and it's very regional, really great. Corridos as well is another thing that we studied, which is kind of like poetry in music. It's storytelling within Mexican music or border music. But yeah, I had friends who did ensembles like that in school, and that was the fun part. It was not the, okay, we have to do UIL again. Okay, we have concert season again. Like, it just kind of gets monotonous. Yeah. So from there, I was kind of like ready to switch gears. And then I saw that there was openings in the library, Fort Worth specifically, and I really wanted to move back to DFW. So that's.
And what year was that?
That was 2012.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're settled in.
I am settled in, yes.
And so working here with the library, and then transitioning into your position now where you're working chiefly with Amplify 817. You said you've been doing that for about 2 years now?
Yes.
How did that position kind of present itself? Did somebody suggest it to you, or?
No, so they opened the position up for the public, and I know it was like a big nationwide search. I think they planned to open in 2019, and I technically wasn't going to apply because I was still in graduate school. I was getting my MLS. So I started over with graduate school, and I started working on my master's in library science. And it does require a master's degree in this position. So I was like, okay, well, maybe it's not for me. And then they ended up pushing it to another semester, or my last semester. So I was able to apply, but then they stopped because we had the pandemic. Right. So I was just like, okay, well, it's fine. And I loved my position I was in. I was a library assistant at the Seminary South Library, which is no longer Seminary South. They're at La Gran Plaza now. Okay. La Gran Biblioteca is their name now. So that was my old staff and where I was for about 7 years. And so, I mean, it was like, oh, it's okay. Like, you know, I'll find some stuff once I graduate. And then I was offered the position interim. So I was like, okay, like, let's hit the ground running. Like, let's see what I can do during a pandemic.
So they just kind of had you waiting. Like, you got the job, but we're going to wait.
Yeah, I had to prove. And then after that, about 6 months in, I guess I did a good enough job and I got the position. So I was really excited and very happy about it. So, well,
it looks like y'all are making some serious moves. Everybody I talked to lately with the music community here in Fort Worth, they want to be on Amplify 817. That's a goal of every musician that I've talked to right now.
That makes me happy. I really want them all on Amplify 817, and that's what I have to tell people. And we've had a few people who will apply, and this goes out to anybody who's listening who is a musician who's applied and was not accepted in the round. Like, we get anywhere between 60 to 100 submissions.
In what time period?
In about a month.
Okay.
Is usually how long we.
So you have to sort through that, and you have to listen to their music, and then you've got a panel that has to decide on this?
Yes. Okay. And we listen to everything. There's other versions of Amplify in the US at other libraries and in Canada who have their version of Amplify, and everybody does it a little bit different. Some people will get like hundreds of submissions, and so they have to split it up amongst people. I give the curators about a month and a half, sometimes 2, depending on what happens, and we just sit and we each listen to it, and we do our ratings and talk about it, and then we have a big meeting where we all put our stuff together, and we're like, okay, like, let's see who we feel is a fit for the round. So we do listen to everything. We do appreciate everything everyone submits. There's nobody who we're ever just like, ugh, this is awful. Like, everybody is doing really good, really interesting work. Yeah. Just really unique. Like, I think those first rounds you could tell, like, this is rock music. Okay, this is punk music. Okay, this is R&B. And now there's a lot of like people doing like fusions of genres and mixing it up, or like collaborative. We had a lot of collaborative groups, people who were doing sort of like kind of like DJ mixing sort of things that kind of falls into electronic music, but it also falls into some other genres. And we're like, okay, like how do we classify this?
I think eventually we're going to have to give up on trying to squeeze different musicians into musical genres, because they are becoming so intermixed.
Oh, absolutely. There's so many subgenres and subgenres of subgenres. Like,
I can't keep up.
Like just going on like SoundCloud. I mean, that's just clicking on the tags, like all of that metadata that's on there. Just that's how you can find those like little pockets of like different music communities and different people doing just like weird stuff. That's my favorite saying, is just let's get weird. And so that's what I always try to find, is just the really unique stuff.
And so is this is homework for y'all then? You're listening to this in your car, you're listening to it while you're making dinner?
Yes. So all of our curators, shout out to all of the people who have served as curators, because they're giving up their personal time to do this. Technically, I get to do it on work time, but honestly, my plate is pretty full that I'll have to just, like, I'm like, okay, my shift's over, time to listen to a few artists. Let's see what I can get done, before dinner or something like that, or on the weekend. So yeah, and they're doing it for free. Our curators, they are just using their own time to kind of help us select our next artists. So,
now, who are the curators and how do you select these people for your panel?
So we usually have an open call for it, and we do it once a year. So the curators will serve 2 rounds, which is our summer round and our winter round. We're currently working on finding, I think we're short maybe 1 or 2 curators this round. I had a few people who had to drop out because it is a bit of a time commitment. It's not too much. It's not hundreds of hours, but it is some time. So we're working on that right now. But
if one of the listeners is interested in being involved as a curator, how could they get involved?
They can email me or email our Amplify. I check both of them. So amplify817@fortworthtexas.gov is the best one if they're interested in that. Okay. And we can talk a little bit and see. Because we do want people who are involved, not just... Like, there's a lot of people who will apply and they're just like, yeah, like, I go to a lot of shows. And it's, like, really great. Like, I'm glad. And that, not to say that they're not,
qualified.
Exactly. Yeah. But we'll get a lot of people who are, like, producers or local DJs or people who put on shows or people who write, photographers. There's a lot of it. So we want to get people who we know are pretty well-rounded in the community.
And maybe not somebody with a bias.
Yeah.
Right.
And there's
seems like that'd be important.
And so that's also part of the curator panels. We always try to find a diverse panel. So it's people who, we always have a spot for somebody in the fine arts. That was something our director Manya always wanted us to have, which is really great, and I agree. Because that's something we do want to expand on, is maybe more artists who are fine arts sort of people. A lot of them won't apply because they're just like, well, they don't have original work, or, they don't feel like it's a fit. But we have a very thriving fine arts community here with our opera, the symphony, arts community, Fort Worth, or Arts Fort Worth now. Yeah, we've got quite a bit here. Clyburn, which just wrapped up. So, yeah, we're always looking for that. We're looking for any genre.
Right.
But, yeah, the curators, we kind of find people who are specialists or who they claim to be specialists in certain areas, ones that they know. So we always have somebody who's maybe a hip-hop or rap expert, or somebody who's just very involved in that community, somebody who may be more involved in like the country or folk sort of thing, or maybe somebody who's really good with the punk rock community or the metal community. We try to find people who can help us with that, because sometimes we'll get just tons of one genre and we're like, okay, like it might all start to sound the same. And so we're like, help us. What do you hear that maybe we're not hearing? Based on and they'll be like, oh yeah, maybe this person, or maybe not this person yet, they've had better work, or things like that is what we look for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would probably be a terrible curator because I'm already very biased towards the people that have been on the Fort Worth Roots podcast. I've had some incredible musicians.
Yes.
And you already, I believe, one is the Traumatics. I think y'all just added them to your...
They've applied, but no, I don't think they made it this round. But we are fans and friends of them.
Okay.
Yeah. And
I knew they'd been talking to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And they go to all the Here Fort Worth. They're fabulous. I really like them.
Have you seen them live?
I have not seen them live.
They're so fun. Like they're just all over the place. Their stage presence is really kind of intoxicating.
I will say I get invited to a lot of shows and concerts and performances, and that's like one of my hobbies, and I love it. And like, but I always have to try to go in as not work Rita.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I'll just be like, I'm just going to hide in the back because I don't want, not that I don't love talking shop. Every librarian I know loves talking about the library and talking shop. And I think my position is very unique and I love talking about music anyway.
Yeah.
But sometimes I'm just like, well, I really just want to like come and enjoy the show. It's just me.
And you're kind of a local musician celebrity, really.
I thank you. I don't consider myself that, but
I think for sure. And then after being on the Funky Panther podcast, I think even more people know who you are now.
Yeah.
So,
and usually depending on which pair of glasses I'm wearing is usually my. I have heart-shaped ones, which I'm not wearing today, but most people just remember. That's what they remember. I originally got them because I was doing youth services and the kids loved them and they would just go crazy. And then I just had to keep them. Everybody's like, you can't get rid of those now. And I'm like, okay. So it's
a you thing.
Yeah. So thankfully my prescription hasn't changed, so I can keep them around. But so I haven't had a chance to see everybody yet.
Right.
And then we started during
too many.
Yeah, we started during the pandemic, so there's still a lot of our musicians. We're almost at 70 different artists that we have on the platform that I haven't had a chance to meet in person yet. Like they just know me as an email address.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's mixers and events, and people are like, "Are you coming out?" And I'm like, no, I'm just really tired, or like I'll have to work late, or I'll have to do other programs because again, Amplify is a big part of it, but there's a lot of other programming that we'll do, and I am also a librarian who works in adult services, so I will step in to kind of help with different programs that we might have, or if we have big like author events or big other non-music programs, like I'm there helping with that also. So
you're busy.
Yeah.
Oh, I feel that because there's a show almost every night, and I wish I could go to all of them, but like you, I've got a full schedule, and it's murder. And I feel bad because I've got some really good friends out there playing at some awesome venues, and I can't make them.
Absolutely.
Not all the time.
When I do get to go and I love it, and sometimes they're like, well, I'm doing a second set, and I'm like, oh, I'm not staying for that second set. And it's like, and I appreciate when they play at places that have food.
Oh yeah.
Because then I can go right after work, and even if I'm dressed like a librarian, they don't mind.
What's your favorite venue?
That's a hard one.
Put you on the spot here.
I really love all of them.
How about your favorite 2 or 3?
Okay. So Lola's was the first one I ever went to.
Amen.
And I have not been out to the new location yet.
I think I'm going this weekend.
Yeah, I'm going to try to make it out. They always have really cool stuff going on, whether it's
Lola's is incredible,
Yeah, and they always have great musicians, and
everybody's telling me the new location does not disappoint. Like everybody's excited.
That's good. I was a little worried.
Everybody's worried. Yeah.
Yeah.
We've been talking about it nonstop for a couple of months on the show now.
Yeah, because I mean, I don't even know how long they were at that their original. Yeah.
Started off as the bar, and then I guess it's a second property behind there, and they kind of expanded. I don't know the full story, but it's part of our Fort Worth culture, our Fort Worth musician scene.
That was my intro into Fort Worth because I was in school in Denton, and I loved those venues a lot when I was in college. And then one of my favorite bands from Austin, the Octopus Project, they played a show in Fort Worth, and we're like, they're not coming to Denton? What? We're going to have to go to Fort Worth. So we all got in my friend's little truck and drove to Fort Worth, and I was just like, this is such a cool place. Like, and then I ended up moving to Fort Worth, and so I was just like, that was my first, I was like, what's going on at Lola's? Like,
Rita moved here for Lola's, everybody.
I moved here specifically for Lola's. But yeah, I'm excited to see the new location. I hope they do well, fingers crossed.
I think they're going to do great.
Yeah. I really love Mass. I mean, it's outside.
Yeah. Did you make it out to Psychedelic Panther?
I did not.
Okay. I was there for you.
Yeah.
So
again, I was invited out to that. Again, I think I was out of town that weekend. I think that was the thing. Because I had a friend, I told him, I was like, I can't go, but you should go. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to go. I'm like, all right, yay. Like, you can go play.
Tell people you know me.
Yeah. And so I really love Mass. It's a small but mighty venue. Really like it. I love the little record shop in there. And Cloudland Recording does stuff there. So, Yeah, that's definitely one of my favorites. And then I'd be a terrible person if I didn't shout out Tulips, who's been working with us to do our Amplify 17 showcase or series that we've been doing at, we do one a month, one free show on a Sunday every month. And it's been really, really good so far for us.
Which Sunday? Do y'all do like...
It's various Sundays. It's usually... Sunday, no, we were trying to do that at first, and they have a show every day. Yeah. So even when we were booking early, it was hard for us to get in there and kind of be like a consistent Sunday. So we've been partnering with Art Tooth. So usually when Art Tooth has a show there, they'll do their daytime thing, and then we'll come in at night. We'll swoop in and help promote Art Tooth, but also have our free concert. And so far we've had at least like 80 to 200 people depending on the show.
That's awesome.
Our first one was Joe, or Joe. He opened it up for us, and he's always super fun to work with. And then we've had Avery. Avery was It's Ernie was our last one. I didn't get to make it to that one, unfortunately. And then Avery Burke did one. Joseph Neville.
Okay.
His was fantastic. It was super intimate, really lovely. So I think that's... Oh, I hope I'm not forgetting anybody. I'm going to feel so bad if I'm forgetting anybody. I think so far that's who we've had. And then this coming month will be Lorena Lee in July.
Lorena Lee.
I don't know if you've had a chance to talk with her on the show.
No, but we're going to be looking for you, Lorena. Actually, I think... Did she play at the ISIS recently?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I know who she is.
She is fantastic.
You're the second person that has told me I need to interview her.
Yeah, she's...
I'm going to tag Lorena.
Yeah.
Lorena, be on the show, please.
She has a presence. She is so fun. Her music is just really lovely and inspiring. I think it wasn't here for... Somebody used one of her songs in a commercial recently, and it was just the perfect fit. Very, like, girl power, and I loved it. And she's... Her whole thing is cowgirl mermaid.
Okay.
Yeah, so if that alone doesn't sell you, then...
What are we even doing?
Yeah.
Okay, I've got a couple of listener questions here. I told him I think I tagged you guys in it maybe, but I said I'm going to interview Rita with Amplify 817. Does anybody want me to ask her anything? Richard Keller, he said, what timing? I literally submitted continuous vaudeville for Amplify 817 a couple of hours ago. I'd be curious to know what the panel is considering for admissions, since it's such a wide range of genres they're covering. And I think you'd pretty much already kind of outline that. You know, everybody has a chance to listen to it, and then y'all have to vote on it later.
Yeah. And so one thing is, like, I will say, like, if we get 100 submissions and like 40 of them are like rock groups, you know, we do have to kind of narrow it down. Like, we do want rock representation, but it's kind of like, who do we feel like will help us fill some musical gaps that we have in the collection? Because when we look at Amplify, it is sort of like an online library catalog. So the way that we have books in the library, you know, if we have everything in every genre and we realize, hey, we don't have any cookbooks, like, we need to maybe fill in that section. Let's go in and order some new cookbooks. That's kind of how it is with this collection too. Like, hey, we don't have any R&B singers. Like, we should really like look into that community and see what we can do. And we will scout a little bit, and that's something that the curators also help us do is, you know, we always announce like, hey, open submissions, we're doing this, please submit. But if there's somebody who are like, hey, this is really good, like we'll reach out to them and tell them about Amplify. We make no promises. I will say that.
You
like,
can't,
we've had people reach out to us, and they might be really good friends of ours, or, you know, they're always helping us out or tagging us on stuff, and we absolutely love them, but I cannot promise anybody a spot. Ethically, that is...
Yeah, wouldn't be fair.
Yeah.
Stephen Trome from The Dramatics.
Hi.
That will be a great interview. Will we see a new panel curators, and how are they chosen? So we kind of covered that too.
Yeah.
So you do 2 rounds per panel, and then you go through a new selection process.
Yes.
So. And if somebody wants to be on the panel, they can just email you and tell you they're interested.
Yeah, and then I'll send them a little survey sort of thing. I don't know when this will be out, so we may have already found our curator for this round, but they can always email and let us know that they're interested, and I can kind of put them on a list I keep, so that once we open it again, I can sort of reach out to them like, hey, are you still interested? Because that's kind of what happened this round. We had people who were interested, and there's like, I can't anymore, I'm moving, or they're just like way too stacked with stuff, and I'm like, I understand, like, don't worry about it. And so that's why we're still looking for some people right now, because usually by now I have them, like, I have a full panel, And I'm just like, oh no, I don't have a full panel yet. So still looking.
How about the jazz genre?
Yes.
Do we have a lot of that going on? Because that feels like jazz and then maybe the hip-hop community. Maybe those are the two categories that Fort Worth is kind of lacking in. Do you think?
So at least with hip-hop and rap, I know like it's the hardcore rap sort of scene. That was one that I think we actually just got an email from somebody recently who reached out to our communications director, because she's the social one. My comms team does. I don't want to say my comms team. Our comms team at the library. They do fantastic work, like doing the promos and doing all the graphics and really like doing the social media. And I get the not fun part, and I'm like, contracts, and let's talk to lawyers, and let's do all the behind the scenes stuff. So but I know like she's also our comms director, Theresa, shout out to Theresa Davis. She's very social, and she goes to all the mixers, and she's just a music fan in general too. So people will reach out to her because they think she's doing the Amplify. She's like, let me show you to Rita, and I'm just like, hi, I'm the email. But yeah, we had somebody reach out, like, you know, when they first heard of this, they thought like, no way they're gonna let like rap artists on here, or they're gonna ask for stuff that's, you know, I guess censored, and we don't censor. The library doesn't censor, and we wouldn't want to ask anybody to do that. We will put on there like if something like your album is like explicit content, like that will be on there. So, you know, maybe don't play that for your kids, or unless you're cool with it, then you know, I don't have kids.
User be warned. Yeah, I had to do the same thing. I had a Richard Keller from Itchy Richie and the Burning Sensations on, and that was the first time I had to issue a parental advisory, because I try not to censor mine either.
Yeah. But just, you know, just a warrant, like, hey, FYI.
By the way, the F-bomb gets dropped a few times here.
And it happens, And so, you know, they were just like, wow, we're really surprised that you guys are kind of reaching out to all the musicians. And we're like, yes, like, that's what we want, because we want what's represented in Fort Worth, even the small little pockets that are here and there. But like jazz is a big one. I mean, Fort Worth has a really big jazz history, which is why our Third Thursday Jazz is so popular. People love jazz. And so that's something that we're always looking for as well, is for people who, and that was part of it, was we need original work. So a lot of people do like covers. Right. And we're like, oh, we can't take that because you don't have the rights to it. Right. And so, or we've had some people who like take off a cover song or one or two songs from the albums because they don't have the rights to it, but we'll still be able to put the rest of the album on. Okay. Yeah. So that's something we'll work out with, you know, individual musicians as they come. But yeah, jazz is a big one that we're always looking for. We've got 2 jazz artists right now out of almost 70. Or we should be at, I think, or I was trying to count before we started this. I was like, how many artists do we have now? So we're almost to 70, 60 something. And
only 2 jazz artists.
Yeah. Wow. So, and they're good friends of ours, Taylor Pace and Tatiana Lady May Mayfield. Both of them have done Third Thursday Jazz with us. Awesome. Both of them have worked with us a lot. Tatiana's actually we're doing a collaboration with The Modern here. Okay. Women with Soul is what they're calling it. So 2 of our Amplify artists are going to be featured in that, which is Tatiana and also Elisa Mora. Awesome. So that'll be at the end of July. They'll be playing there. So that's really fun. We're glad we could get them out there and do that. And that's also another big thing we're doing with Amplify is we want to, it doesn't just stop at the streaming platform. We really want our artists to have more opportunities to perform. Yeah. Whether it's with us or somebody's like reaches out to us like, hey, like, do you have anybody you recommend? Like, yes, what are you looking for? Like, and then we'll just give them names and contacts, or I'll contact them on their behalf. Because I don't want to just give out people's personal information. Right, so I'll be like, let me talk to them, and then I'll have them get back to you.
Yes. Yeah. Well, excellent. I appreciate everything y'all are doing for the local community, and I know that people are excited to listen to Amplify 817. And it's what's the direct website to go to so that they can listen to the music that's on your channel?
Amplify817.org.
Okay. Yeah. And it's live streaming? You'll have like...
It's not live, so you can select based on the artists that are there. Okay. You can either just browse the artists or you can browse the albums. You can also click on the links, so if there's like a specific genre you want, like I just want to listen to rap,
Yeah.
You can click on the little link there, and then it'll give you all of the rap artists or the rap albums that we have.
Okay.
We also have some playlists on there. Some of them are just ones that we've created based on like the different submission rounds or events that we've done. And then some of them were curated by some of our local venues or some of our local, like here Fort Worth has one. The Funky Panther podcast made one. If you'd like to make one for us, we could do that too.
What would you like me to make?
Of a playlist.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, of whoever is.
We select the musicians and we can say this is the Fort Worth
you would
Roots.
select the songs.
Oh,
on there, and
we're
then
doing
make a
that.
playlist. So
yes.
Tulips made a patio playlist for us, so it's one that they might feature on their patio as well.
Oh, cool.
So, and we're working with a few other entities right now who are
that is so
interested
cool
in it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll just look through your catalog, select the artist that I like, and say this is the Fort Worth Roots.
Or if you want to just look through their
playlist.
songs and be like, like I want this song and this song and this song and this song, and I'll make that real quick.
We're doing that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's so cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Before we get out of here, because we're at 34 minutes now. I did want to bring up one uncomfortable subject that I don't want to talk about, but I think we need to.
Okay.
You know what it is?
No.
The library.
Oh.
And like the what might happen, what is happening here. You brought me down into a lower level from where I walked in at, and brought me through an area of the library that's been shut down, and it's just a huge space with bookshelves everywhere, and there must be 200 bookshelves down here, right? It's a lot.
Maybe.
Not all of them are full, but it's a lot. And it's a lot of dead space that's not being used. And you were saying that people do have access to these books, but they can't come down here and browse.
Right. No browsing. So like, local history, genealogy, archives, they'll bring that to you if you make an appointment with the department, and you say specifically what you want. They'll make an appointment and you can come down and see the stuff. Or I think they'll actually bring it up to you. Because we're just using the second floor for now. And then pretty much everything that is popular. We have a popular adult fiction section, or I guess it's also I think it's just fiction. I don't know if it's also nonfiction. I work behind the scenes now, so I feel like I'm not as involved in that part of it anymore. But we check the stats and see what's new or what is highly circulated that people are getting, and so we've moved that upstairs to make it more easily accessible. But everything else is still on our catalog. So if you're online, you're ordering books and it says that we have something, I think it says on there, like in the archives or in something, you can still place a hold and we'll just put it on hold for you, or we'll send it off to your closest library. So
it's still just as resourceful as before. It's just being handled differently. And I think the reason that it was so shocking to me is because it seems like, everything else that we've seen disappear over the past couple of years, the car lots are bare, the malls are shutting down, the libraries are disappearing, and that's what it felt like whenever we walked through this space down here. Yeah. And there are some changes coming that some of it's rumors, some of it has not been confirmed or decided on, but we might be losing this space, right?
Yes. So this space is up for sale. So, if you really love it, you can buy it.
You know what? If I could buy all the old buildings in Fort Worth, I would do it.
Yeah. But we're looking into a better space for the community, for our items that we have. And, one of the things, for at least on my side of things, we've launched our instrument lending library.
Oh, that just started, right?
Yeah, we started that in May. May 1st is when we launched. And so to accommodate that, and the more we just have a small amount of instruments right now. None of them are here because they're all checked out, and we have a wait list, and it's great. So
that's a good problem.
Once I can get more of that out there, maybe we want to have a home for that as well. And in this current space, we don't have that, or we don't have enough maybe meeting room space or study space for people. So we want just something that's going to be better for the community. So we're not going away. We're not shutting down permanently. There are 16 other library locations in Fort Worth that you can go to in the meantime. I mean, we're still open for now. We're not closing tomorrow.
Right.
It'll be a ways off. And then we're currently, I believe, looking into opening more branches around Fort Worth, because what we have now isn't even the edges of Fort Worth. There's so many communities and people moving in that we're just like, okay, where do we need to go next?
Right.
So we're not closing. The library is fine. It's just this building is, we're just going to move to something better.
Okay.
And I know a lot of people have memories here and they're like, I grew up going here. But there's also a lot of people who are sad that I'm like, well, you haven't been by this location in a long time.
Yeah.
It's a lot different.
It's cute that you have memories,
Yeah.
but you haven't used your library card in 2 decades.
Yeah. And I understand that McAllen, you know, my home library was 2 blocks away from my house, the one I grew up going to, and my sister would walk me there all the time. And I loved that library. And when I found out they were closing, I was so sad. And I was like, I also haven't been there in like over a decade or 2. And then they opened the Walmart library is what they called it. It was an old Walmart, and the city bought it. And now it's the largest single floor library in the United States in McAllen, Texas.
Go McAllen.
Yeah. And so, and they're award winning. So
no escalators needed.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm just like, you know, and I've been there and it's really fantastic. And I'm like, you know, as much as I loved that old library, I think this was a really good move and it fits the community well. And they still have the old building. Like this building's not, as far as I know, I mean, I don't know who's going to get it, who's going to buy it, but it's not going to be torn down or anything. My old McAllen library is still open. They do art installations and programs there. So I'm like, cool. Like it's still there if I really want to see it. So
everybody calm down. The library's not going anywhere.
Yeah. We're not closing. We are still open. We're still okay.
Awesome. Yeah. Okay. There's a scene. Have you seen iRobot with Will Smith?
I have not.
There's a scene where the guy's like, I don't know what they're arguing about, but he says, I guess you want me to turn off the internet so we don't have to close the libraries or something like that. And whenever he says, like, you know what? I wonder how long libraries are going to be around, because I'd never thought of that. But it is kind of an antiquated system, you know. Y'all don't even use the Dewey Decimal System anymore, do you?
We do.
Really?
Yes.
But I mean, it's not cards anymore, right?
No, we don't have a card catalog, like a physical one. I mean, maybe somewhere in our storage we might have one.
Terribly out of date.
It's funny. Most librarians online will always, that's their like goal, is to find an old card catalog just to have in their house. And I'm like, what do you keep in there? Like spices? Like, I don't know what I'd use it for. But, and I know some places have done, like, they'll do a library of things. So like with the way we have instrument lending, some people will check out like pots and pans, or some people will check out like a seed library. So you can go and get some seeds and plant them, and then once your plant grows, you just bring back those seeds to the library. And so
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and so that's an option for an old card catalog, is that's where we keep our seeds.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have an online catalog. Most libraries have an online catalog that's digital, so you can access it from home. You can access it on your phone, your tablet, or you can come into the library and use one of our PCs and look it up that way.
Well, it's good that y'all are innovating and coming up with great ideas like Amplify 817 or instrument lending or seed catalogs and old Dewey Decimal cabinets. Because that's the kind of thing that's going to keep a library going. Absolutely. Whenever books are more or less just a cherished piece of our past, you know, everybody's reading off of tablets and PCs now, so paper is not as in vogue as it might have been 50 years ago.
Our circulation went up during the pandemic for our ebooks. So we ended up having, I think we reallocated resources to that, because we're like, we need more ebooks.
Right.
So if that's what the public needs, if that's what libraries focus on, we're like, what does the public want? What does the public that we serve need? And how can we accommodate that? So there's always going to be books, but you know, when the internet started, that's when libraries were like, I guess we need the internet and public computers. And so that's how that happened there as well. And as technology changes, we will change with it as well, and the needs of the community. I mean, we also have video games that you can check out too, because people wanted video games. So we're like, okay,
sweet,
and they're expensive. So, that's an expensive hobby. So you know, that's something that we can accommodate as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, there are people screaming at me right now saying, "Why aren't you asking her about this?" So, in order for me not to have a small panic attack, can we agree to do this again sometime?
Sure.
Okay. So y'all go ahead and yell at me, tell me what I missed with Rita, and then we'll ask her next time around. But she's got to get out of here. This ended the day for her. She squeezed me in last minute. I'm sure it was a very busy week, but thank you very much. And we covered email address and the website. Is there any social media sites or anything like that you want to shout out?
Do follow the library on all of our social media. That's kind of how you get to know what we're going to do next.
Right.
We have our online calendar on our website, so fortworthlibrary.org. I think that's still our address. Yes, I'm getting the yes that it is. I had trouble logging into it the other day, but I think
that's Francisco back there. Thank you, Francisco.
Thank you. And so that we have an Instagram for Amplify 817 and also for the Fort Worth Library. We both have we have that. We have our Twitter's account. If you're into Twitter, I know some people don't even use it anymore.
Over it, yeah.
And then we have our Facebook pages as well. We have an Amplify page as well as our Fort Worth Library page, and that's where you'll get a lot of our promotions for what's coming up. So if you're curious when our next submission round is, or when our curator search is going, or more about the instrument launch, when our Third Thursday Jazz is, and all of our other music things. Like we have a music author visit about DJ Screw, who is out of Houston, Lance Scott Walker.
I saw that.
Yeah, so
DJ Screw.
And we're doing that at Printed Threads. So shout out to Printed Threads.
Yeah.
They've been
in there.
really great friends with us, done a lot of the printing for the stuff that we have in the library, like our cool library shirts, our cool Amplify shirts. They did that for us. And so they've graciously lent us their space so we could host this. And we'll also have Joe performing, Joe. He'll be doing a short set during the author book signing. So super excited about that. That's on Saturday as well. So we've got a lot of little music things here and there, and our branches all are, I don't do every single little music thing. Our branches do a lot on their own as well. Again, shout out to Meadowbrook. They do their guitar lessons and they do jam sessions, and some of the other branches are kind of getting into the music thing as well. So hopefully we'll have a lot more of that soon too.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Don't overwork yourself. You've got a lot going on.
I do, but it's fun. This is definitely a really, people refer to it as a unicorn job. Not every public library has a music librarian or music programming, and I'm glad that I'm able to use my music background and my background in library science and just squish them together and working for a system that I obviously love a lot since I've been here for almost a decade now.
And in the best city in the world.
Absolutely. I love Fort Worth. I'm as much as I love McAllen still, 956 still, I am definitely a Fort Worthian now. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's get you out of here. Rita, thank you again, and we'll try to do this again after I've got a barrage of people telling me what all I forgot to ask you.
Absolutely. And feel free to email amplify817@fortworthtexas.gov if you have any music questions. I'm happy to get to that, or somebody will get to that. Whoever's going to answer the emails that day.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Fort Worth Roots listeners, thank y'all for being here, and we will see you next week. Bye. Huge thank you to our guest today, Rita Alfaro with the Fort Worth Library and Amplify 817. Amplify 817 they're doing cool stuff, and you need to check them out on their social media. This thing where they're riding around on buses with musicians and making videos and playing music it's a weird idea, but I love it. Check them out, Amplify 817. Their contact information, amplify817.org. To listen to their music catalog and check out all their events. And don't forget, we've got that one event coming up, the Amplify 817 Day out there at Will Rogers. That's going to be a cool thing. It's a free event. Why would you not go? Come on, it's a free event. And it's a great way to support Amplify 817, the public library, and our musicians. So get excited. Go check that out. What else? Our sponsors. Thank you to Roofing Solutions by Darren Houck, Woodpost Metalworks, and Houck Walker Originals. They were out at this event this weekend. We had a great time planning the September 10th event for you guys at Pouring Glory, and the podcast that we had out there that physically showed up. We had the Funky Panther podcast. Of course, that's Chad, Tim, and Javier, the guys I hung out with this weekend over at Panther Island Brewing. Good dudes, had a lot of fun. Thank y'all for the opportunity to interview you on your 100th episode. Ridiculous. What are they doing inviting me to something like that? Jerry Jonestown Massacre showed up yesterday. The Failed Podcast, Forever Reckless, Funky Town Podcast with Jeff Lord. What else we got here? TFTI is going to be involved. They didn't make it out yesterday. That's okay, guys. It's all right. Love you anyway. Osos Colossus was out there. Fort Worth Famous made it. And I feel like there was somebody else there. It's just a whole list of awesome homies that showed up to show their support and help us brainstorm. It's going to be a cool deal. I will have all the information on that scavenger hunt thing I was talking about at the beginning of this episode next week. I'm just ironing out a few more details, but basically it's just an opportunity for you to get involved with the other awesome podcasts that maybe you've not heard about inside the Fort Worth area. Some of these names that I just listed off have been rocking and rolling for 9 years here in our area, and you haven't heard about them yet? That's kind of crazy, but that's why we're doing this, to make sure that everybody is aware of what's going on in the podcast community. And that's another side venture of the September 10th event, is to not only, everything that I've listed off, but also bring in the podcast community and kind of grow as a group of creators here in our lovely city. So anyway, it's going to be awesome. There is a Facebook event, and I'm trying to get people to go on to Facebook, find the event, September 10th, Pouring Glory, Fort Worth Roots. And I'll put a link in the show notes. But if you will hit going, the more people that tell me RSVP on that event that they are going, I'll be able to show that to potential sponsors and be like, hey, man, this is how many people are coming. Don't you want to give them something? So help me help you. What movie was that from? Tell me in the show notes or comment in this video or whatever you're listening to it on. Shout out to Elon Musk down there in Brownsville. Why not? Hey, man, I want to talk to you about the impact that SpaceX is having in Brownsville and the surrounding community, and what we can do to get locals from the valley to, paint murals on your buildings and stuff. It's better than wallpaper, Elon. I don't know if you guys saw the most recent picture of him, at the beach or on a boat or something with his shirt off. The dude is pasty white, kind of like me, if I take my shirt off. And that just means that this dude works a lot. You look at Jeff Bezos, he's all in shape and tan and looks happy. Not Elon, because he's still in the factory turning wrenches, dude. Anyway, Elon, be on Fort Worth Roots. That's really it. I can't think of anything else to say to you right now. I do want to say that the local podcast community is a blast to hang out with. I went to 3 different things this weekend. One, I kind of put on that informal thing at Pouring Glory, and then I went to a get-together at a private residence with some of the podcast people, and also the 100th episode party that they had out there at Panther Island. And so I spent a lot of time with these people. And I got to tell you, these are good folk that you just want to surround yourself with, highly creative, very fun to just talk to. But we're going to keep doing stuff like this. Every single one of those people that I was hanging out with has an idea for a different thing that they want to do. And so we're going to keep promoting for their stuff, promoting for their events, and try to get you out of your house, Come on, come to these events. Generally, they're free. I'm not going to tell you that they're always free because it's not my place to say. But we're always trying to find ways to connect with the public. And that means that we're going to be doing everything we can to entertain you. So, I know you can't make it to all these things, but you got to make it to some of them. And you definitely have to make it to the September 10th event. If you need any other details, if you'd like to sponsor the show or just sponsor the event, or you just have general questions, I also appreciate people that yell at me for no reason. If you would like to yell at me for no reason, you can do it on an MP3 format recording. Send it via email to media@fortworthroots.com. Do not go see Thor. I don't know if I'm even legally allowed to say that, but I went and watched Thor. It was awful. It's just, I feel bad for all the talented artists and actors that were in that movie because it was awful. The actors did their job. They did. And they were just fine. Incredible. In fact, it's the only reason you'd watch a moving picture like that is so that you could see their beautiful faces acting to the best of their ability to a script that was just crammed down their throats. It was terrible. Anyway, wait for it on Netflix. Why did I bring that up? Okay, well, thank y'all for being here. I will see you next week. That's not it, Andrew. A huge thank you to you guys. Y'all are making Fort Worth Roots what it is today. Every single time you stream, download, listen to, whatever, one of these episodes, it shows up on the analytics and it allows me to reach more people. So thank you. Thank you for listening to this episode. Thank you for listening to every episode that you have listened to in the past. And I'm going to keep doing this thing for you. We're almost at episode 100. And that is a huge mile mark for any podcaster. It represents a shit ton of work. So thank you. You're the fuel that keeps this thing going. All right, I'm going to shut the hell up. I will see you next week. Thank you for being here. And yeah, see you Monday. Bye.